All right, welcome everybody. So good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and welcome. So this is lesson 3.4. It's been a while since I've done a video, but I want to get back on track for the second quarter from when we come back from fall break. Okay, so let's begin. A couple different things in relation to slope with intercept form. You guys learned this all last year when you guys were in 8th grade, and you guys should have a fairly good knowledge of the form. Okay, now this is something that we're going to be dealing with in chapters not only 3 but 4, 5, and 6 and beyond. Okay, it's the main form that you guys will use to graph equations, and that's what's key. All right, is as we move forward this year, I'm going to ask you guys to graph a lot of things by hand, and in order to do that, you're going to have to put it into this form, which is the slope-intercept form. Okay, you guys have learned it before, but I want to make sure you guys understand a couple of different things in relation to this. That we have the slope-intercept form of the equation of y equals mx plus b. Now, if you guys notice, they put it in different colors here, and there's a reason for that. Okay, the main reason is the y equals and the x never changes. As a matter of fact, neither does the plus sign. But what changes is the slope and the value that is b. Now, the value that is b does change this to a negative if this is a negative number. So, for example, on this one here, they have it as a positive 6. And so it just stays as a positive. But if this was a negative 6, we would rewrite this as y equals 2x minus 6. Okay, so that's kind of the caveat that you guys need to expect. So let's begin. On Alex, we'll have homework. We'll have other things in relation to this. So want to make sure you guys can do this order pretty simple. So I always want to make sure you guys start with a y equals and then leave a space and then put in x and then y equals, put a space and leave an x. Now I don't write the plus sign because, like I said, that can be changed dictated upon the number that is entered. So for example, right out the gate, you have 2/3 as your slope. Okay, so right here would be 2/3. Okay, and then it should be a plus. But some of you, maybe in the past, have wrote it like this. I don't want you to write it like that anymore. Okay, I want you to understand that it was a plus sign, but this is a -9, so this has to change this sign. So for going forward, please make sure you guys write the equation like this. Okay, y equals 2/3 x minus 9. Okay, the other one here, the slope would be -1/2. And then this would be a +8. Now, you can see on the example here, they put a -1/2 with a negative sign out front. When we're talking about slope and with this intersection, I try to put the negative number with the top, okay? The reason for that is when we've talked about rise over run, right? The graphs, they're either going to go up or down, and they're always going to go slope to the right. And so what you need to know is, depending upon this number, is it positive or is it negative? That is why I always try to put like a negative on the closer to the top number. Okay, so you guys know this would be a -1 going down and then positively going 2 to the right. That's how you graph it, and that's how this slope works. All right, the slope of 2x, and then it would be y-intercept is -6. Okay, simple enough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, your turn. All right, make sure you pause these videos and that you would verify that your answers are correct. And sorry, that's a -4x plus 5. That looks very ugly. Let me rewrite that just so you guys get it. So I don't have to announce to what these numbers are. Compare your work and see how well you did. All right, so the next couple of things here is finding a slope and the y-intercept for the lines below. So this is kind of a precursor also to what we're going to be doing as we go forward. When we start dealing with standard equations, standard form of equations, and I ask you to graph them. The only way to graph a standard form of an equation is to actually change it into y equals mx plus b, okay? So here's another reason. So I want you to identify the slope and y-intercept. Well, we can here because we're trying to make sure it looks like y equals mx plus b. And so you'll know that the y equals m would be the 9. So your slope here is 9. Then you have your x, and then it's a plus, but it's not a plus, and it's a b. This is a negative b, and so you actually have to know that the y-intercept is a -3. All right, now You got to tell me what the y is, but remember, kind of like what we talked about in class, you cannot distinguish between anything in relation to standard form. You can't tell me what anything is in relation to y equals mx plus b. You can't graph anything because we got to change all the numbers, and you have to make this equation look like y equals mx plus b. So remember, we're going to change, and we're going to keep this singular by itself, and we got to get everything away from it. Okay, so to get everything away from it, you got to start moving and doing a multi-step equation, which we've been practicing for the last couple of months. All right, so first step would be you want to isolate the negative 4y. So you get rid of the hanger-oners, which means add 5x to both sides. Okay, once you add 5x, then you have negative 4y, because that cancels out, equals, and then I want you to get in the habit now, like I have in the past, of writing this equation with the x first into the form of mx plus b. Okay, so this would be 5x minus 8. Okay, sorry my 5 looks bad. Now the last step, this is negative 4 times y. Opposite of multiplication is division, and then we talked about you have to do to every step, okay? You have to do to every number on both sides of the equation. You would divide negative 4. So this cancels out and becomes a 1, so that would be a y equals, and then this is a negative 5/4, because you can't reduce that, x, and then a negative 8 divided by negative 2 is by negative 4 is a positive 2. Okay, so there's that slope right there. The other one here, same thing. Negative 9x. You subtract that right out the gate. Okay, so you have 3y equals negative 9x minus 3. Now you divide by 3. You have y equals negative 9 divided by 3 is a negative 3x, and then this would be a minus 1. There's your answer there. So make sure you guys know you rewrite these, and now you can tell me what the easiest first portion of this is. That my slope here is, that equals to m, and then 2 is my y-intercept, and then lastly on here, negative 3 is my m, and then that negative 1 would be my y-intercept. If you have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, come see me in class, but understand exactly what you're solving here. So you try now. All right, so do this quick. That's your m, that's your b, so that's m and that's b. You would do negative 2y, and then this is negative 7x, because you're going to subtract it from both sides, minus 2. And then you would simply divide by negative 2. Okay, now when you do that, make sure you know this is going to be y equals. Negative and a negative now makes this positive, yet you don't change anything, and you put an x out so you know this is your slope, 7/2. And then this would be a plus 1, because negative 2 divided by negative 2 is a positive 1. All right, and then the next one here, same thing. So it would be 2y equals negative 4x minus 6. The next step is going to be divide by 2 on both sides. So you have y equals, that would be a negative 2x minus 3. So ladies and gentlemen, it's not too difficult, but please make sure as you're going through this process that you get these things done correctly, okay? One of the things is, as we're going forward, is not only do I need you to be able to write those equations, but this is the last thing for this particular page, but is to tell me what the intersections and the equations are. So we got y equals space x. All right, so this is what I want you to tell me. Okay, there is a point that is given here. And this equation, you can actually write one number down right away, and that would be the y-intercept, which is b. Remember, that would be on the back end of the equation. When you go y equals mx plus b. This is given to you on a graph, and it's right here. So the back end of this equation would be plus 2. Now the trick is to find the slope, right? So you know, from a money standpoint, as I talk in class, this would be a negative annotation for money. So knowing that, I'm going to put a negative here, and then you count how far you go down. So that's down 4, and it would be over 2, which can be reduced to y equals negative 2x plus 2. All right, the last one here, the other one here is positive, but where's my intersection at? It's at negative 1, so we know we're ending it with a negative 1. And then you have to tell me what is the intersection. So I'm going from 7 to 1. That would be a 6 up. And then you would go 2 over. So ladies and gentlemen, it's y equals 3x minus 1. Do the last one real quick. All right, hopefully you guys know this origin is actually a plus 0 because it's at 0, 0. And then the graph would be a positive 4 up and then 8 over. So you actually would end up with y equals 1/2 x. Now this is important to remember because if you ever are represented or given an equation with no number on the back end, it always goes through the origin, which would be 0, 0. So that's it for this lesson for page 1. So if you flip the notes over to page 2, that'll be coming up next.